This is Ray.
And this is Andy.
And this is FDS Local Sports.
How's it going this week, Ray?
It's going fantastic. How are things with you, Andy?
Not bad. The weather is gross outside, and all I can think is I hope it continues into the weekend.
Andy, come on. I'm a football official. I'm going to be on the field Friday night and Saturday. Let it rain today so it's sunny on the weekend.
Life choices.
There you go.
Let's talk football.
Want to talk football?
Yeah, take me through some AUS action.
All right, I got two good games to talk to you about. The first game, we are going to Quebec for this one.
Okay.
We're going to Quebec because the St. FDS X-Men traveled northwest up to Bishop's University to take on the Bishop Gators.
Also known as down sometimes.
Sometimes it's down.
Yeah, down to Bishops, he likes to say.
That being said, Andy, this was a very tight ball game.
I heard that.
Very tight ball game. X wins this game on a last-second field goal, and I'll talk to you about that in a second, but they win this game 12-11.
On a last second.
12-11.
Ouch.
All right?
Ouch.
Bailey Wasdale goes 140 yards, 2 interceptions. Matthew Demare from the Bishop Gators goes 171 yards, 1 touchdown and 1 interception. He throws a 37-yard bomb to Melvin Pelvin for a touchdown. But here's the key scoring in this game. There was 5 team safeties in this game, Andy.
Wow. Neither of these teams are the team we're used to seeing these safeties from.
No,
these conceded
and these
safeties.
are conceded safeties,
Yeah.
not defensive gain safeties.
Right.
Gators had the lead in this game, and late in the fourth quarter, they take a team safety in the end zone. The score becomes 11-9. They kick the ball to the X-Men, and Wasdale hits Julian Grant down the sideline, setting up another game-winning field goal from 31 yards from Kieran Burnham.
Yep.
That's 2 in a row. He did it against Acadia, and now he's done it against Bishops.
Heartbreaker for Bishops, man. And listen, we thought the Gators were coming on, and that their time was coming, and they are getting better every single game. Good call. You know what? The safety was conceded. They trusted their defense. Not that they had a choice, but they stayed in this one all the way to the end, and to keep actually a close game like that. So good for them, and I think Bishop's going to be real strong next year.
I do. Coach Sharif Nichols, he's done a great job in his 2 years in the AUS. And Andy, I just want to recap the last 4 games for the Gators.
Yeah.
They lost this game 12-11. We talked about the game before that. It was 31-9 against Acadia. Before that, they lost to St. Mary's 18-9. And the game before that, 18-10 against Mount A. So they are in these ball games,
Yep.
And it's just going to take maybe a couple plays, maybe a couple players, and Bishops is going to be right in this division in 2019.
Look forward to seeing it. Now, there was another game on the weekend that we were both close to. You were on the field. I was at home watching on AUS.TV. And all I can tell you, Ray, I want you to walk us through it, but very disappointed.
Yeah, it was a tough game. Hunter Gennard from Acadia had a record day, probably his best day of the year, Andy. He goes 23 for 40, 363 yards with 3 touchdowns. 2 of those touchdowns were caught by one of our good buddies, Glodin Mullally.
Glodin had a big game.
142 yards receiving with a touchdown.
And when you got stats like that, that's enough to take down the Mounties these days. And so Acadia drops the Mounties in a must-win game. Get through the highlights here, and then we'll talk about what
Cordell Hastings, another 5 catches, 91 yards, a touchdown. The key thing for the Mounties, okay, they lose this game 27-11. In a game that you must win,
yeah,
in order to get to the playoffs, you have to put up more than 11 points, Andy.
Yeah.
Troy Downton threw for 7 for 19, only 44 yards of receiving offense. But then late in the fourth quarter, they brought out number 12, Graham Kelly, who looks like a linebacker at quarterback. He's also the punter for them. He puts up 119 yards and a touchdown, and the touchdown was to Moncton's own Josh Hicks, who catches the ball and takes it the length of the field, probably breaking 5, maybe 6 tackles on this play. It was an amazing play, and I was very lucky, Andy, in the fact that I was the covering official and got to run along the sideline with Josh right into the end zone where I was able to hold my signal for a touchdown. It was a pretty exciting play.
You were right on camera, and you knew you were right on camera. That was very obvious when you're watching this game. I wouldn't say you were running down the sideline with Josh Hicks. I would say you're running down the sideline after Josh Hicks. But yeah, you made that touchdown. That motion, Ray, it was like it was first touchdown you ever called.
Well,
give us a break, man. All right, when you're on TV, act like you've done this before.
Andy, you got to hold it for the camera. Hold it for the camera.
You know what, Mount A, they were only down 5-0. Going into the end of the first quarter, and the wind was a factor, and they were in position to go ahead. They were lined up to kick a field goal to bring it to 5-3, and they take a penalty, and they get backed up, and they end up having to punt. And that play, it symbolizes everything I've seen from the Mounties the last few weeks. I mean, it's infuriating. I'm a Browns fan. I have to deal with self-inflicted wounds like that enough on the weekends when I'm watching football. And I'm seeing that same thing from my Mounties. Very disappointing season, Ray. There's a blog up on our website that the entire staff kind of put together, firstdownsportspodcast.com if you want to read it. It's about the AUS playoffs. And I have nothing else to add. I'm tired of talking about it.
There you go.
That's it.
Mount A's got 1 game left this weekend.
Yeah.
They are off to St. FX. It will be very interesting to see how X comes out for this game, whether they play Bailey Wasdale or they don't play Bailey. I mean, they are going to be hosting the Acadia semifinal game the week afterwards, and they'll be hosting Acadia.
You know, I'm interested, too, to find out how Mount A comes out to this game.
Absolutely.
When there's nothing on the line. I mean, how are they going to respond to this?
Are you starting Troy Downton, or are you going to go with Graham Kelly?
You know what? I'm trying to win the game.
Okay.
I'm trying to end this season on a positive note. So Coach Pete Fraser and the staff need to get together and play the guy that is going to give them the best chance to win the game. Go out there, play disciplined football, which has not been common lately, to be honest. And again, I'm trying not to be too hard on it, but it's been really tough to watch. Just go out and win the game, end the season on a good note, and come back next year and be ready to compete.
Come on, you guys, you got to do something. Andy wants to go back to wearing his Mount A hat. Come on. All right?
Yeah.
SMU is going to Acadia this weekend, Andy. And that'll be a really interesting game. We still don't know if Caleb Scott's back.
We have no idea his status at all, yeah.
Cameron Villardo will be your starting quarterback, most likely for the Huskies. Again, this is a game. They've got to play it. Doesn't have any playoff implications. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a warm-up for Acadia, who will be playing next week.
Yeah.
And after that semifinal game, the St. Mary's Huskies will be hosting the Loney Bowl in Halifax this year. And that's going to be a great game, depending on which one of these two teams come out. It's going to be a great game regardless.
For sure.
The last 3 teams, solid coaching, solid play. The playoffs in the AUS are going to be fantastic this year.
Absolutely. Speaking of playoffs, you want to talk about how another season wrapped up. Let's move to high school, right?
High school football. Here we go.
All right. Now, week 12, or the 12-man. Riverview had a bye this past week, and all 3 12-man games took place on Friday night. We had Tantramar go to Leo Hayes, Ray. It was a road 52-0. Tantramar continues their dominance. They're tough to stop right now, so they're going into the playoffs red hot.
I saw a stat today. Now I don't remember what the total score, what they won, but they only allowed 8 points scored against them in 2018.
Whew.
They're going to be a tough team to beat, Andy.
The other game Friday, Moncton High fell to St. John 22-0. So unfortunately, a very disappointing end of the season for Moncton High. They can rebound and come back stronger next year. And Laudacy fell to Fredericton. The Black Cats, 28-7. The Black Cats, that's 3 in a row.
3 in a row.
They caught fire just in time for the playoffs. And let's talk about that playoff picture because it starts Friday. Riverview will be facing off against St. John, so that's the 2 seed versus the 3 seed. So our buddies Logan Grossman and Nathan Treitz will be leading the Riverview team against St. John, and that's gonna be a tough matchup. And then on Saturday, Tantramar will be facing off against the red hot Fredericton Black Cats. Now, the last time these two teams played each other was early in the season, and Tantramar handled them quite well. That said, though, this is a different team.
It is a different team, and I don't know if you remember, but I was the referee in this game, and I went back to watch this game on film. And when Fredericton was running the ball early on in this game, they had a lot of success running that ball. They've got some big bodies on the line on both offense and defense. And if Fredericton can stick that run and get that run going, hey, this could be a completely different ball game against Tantramar.
For sure. 10-man division, Ray. So Friday night, you and I actually head over to one of these games. We'll talk about that one started. Oromocto was visiting Bernice McNaughton High School, and Ray and I were there on location with our Bernice McNaughton insider, Seth. He was in full uniform. I mean, this kid is amped up for a Bernice McNaughton football game. This guy gets the crowd going. And Bernice McNaughton handles Oromocto. I believe it was 23-0 or 21-0, I believe, actually. Yeah. We left at half because it was a little too cold for Ray.
It was a little too cold. But I do have a quick little story about the second half.
Okay.
There might have been an inadvertent whistle in the second half of that football game.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'll get the details afterwards as to who we're going to heckle for that. I just do want to say, though, being there at that game, even though Oromocto didn't put up any points, they actually played quite well. There was a few, mistakes here and there. It was really cold. Their quarterback, I don't think he was wearing a glove, but he just couldn't get any spin on the ball.
There was no spin on the ball.
He had open receivers, and the ball flight just wasn't there for this kid.
But even when he hit a receiver, the receiver would take off with the ball. Next thing you know, the ball would be on the ground. They had a tough time holding on to the ball in this game.
Yeah. Also on Friday, Harborview ended their season. They fell to KV 74-0. Ray. Harborview is they've had a tough season, and we'll just kind of leave it at that.
They're in a rebuild year.
Yeah, they'll rebound next year. Saturday's games, Trimble faced off against the JMH Tommies and took them out 42-20.
Wow.
St. Malachy's defeated Sussex 48-0.
Wow.
Rothsay 46, Simons 28. So Rothsay with the big win there, Ray. St. Stephen's played against Dan Comfort and his Matadors. I apologize. I can never think of the actual head coach of that team's name. So
Phil.
Yeah. Everybody who watches this show is just assuming the Comfort Zone is the head coach over there. So we're very sorry about that.
He's the offensive coordinator.
He's a friend
of the show. He looks after the quarterbacks.
He's become the face of the program. St. Stephen takes them out 44-7. And the final game I want to talk about, which was my favorite game of the week, obviously, featuring my two favorite teams in the 10-man division. Le Castor.
Castor Nation.
Yeah.
Castor Nation.
Faces off against my MVHS Pulamu. The Castors win this game 49-22. But MVHS gave them a game, man, and they were coming on strong at the end of the season, and they had a lot of players out. They lost a lot of players throughout the season. It's only year 3 of that program. Football is going strong in the Miramichi, and it's going to get better. And the Tommies, too, guys. Keep going, please, because my guys need somebody to play in that riverboat.
Absolutely. I'm just glad that, Miramichi has football now. It's their second or third year in the 10-man division.
Yep.
And it's great to have some football being played up in the northern part of the province. This is fantastic.
They have 2 football teams up there, but 1 football field, Ray, and we're going to touch on that in a future show with a special guest.
Okay.
But just a shout out to a few players. 10th grader Pierce Sweeney, he both ran for and caught a touchdown in this game.
Nice.
So he accounted for a lot of the Palamu's points. Ryland Timmons, 4 sacks and 4 tackles for loss. I mean, we might as well start calling this guy Miles Garrett.
Miles Garrett.
My goodness. Jacob Black had 3 sacks as well. Mikhail White led the team with, what I'm told, 15-plus tackles.
15-plus tackles?
They stopped counting them at 15. But here's the coolest story of this race. So quarterback Alex Wickham, who threw that touchdown to Sweeney that we talked about a little while ago, he was the 4th quarterback to play for MVHS this season. They They lost their first 3 strings of quarterbacks by the 5th game and had to play this impromptu quarterback, Alex Wickham, and he went out there and threw a touchdown. So great job, guys. So at this point, the playoffs are set for the 10-man division, and we'll bring them up here. They're a little more elaborate to talk about than the 12-man. So Bernice McNaughton will be facing off against Le Castor.
Le Castor. Castor Nation.
Castor Nation.
Copyrighted by First Down Sports Podcast.
There you go. That's first seed versus the 4th seed, and that is on Friday. Also on Friday, Oromocto, the 2nd seed, will face off against the Harrison Trimble Trojans.
That should be a good game. That should be a really good game.
Absolutely. We got St. Stephen, the number 1 seed in the B pool, facing off against the Sussex Sonics. That's on Saturday. And KV, coming off of that huge win, will face off against St. Malachy's.
Wow.
Also, that one's actually going to be on Friday. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out.
Well, you got on Friday night, you have 3 fantastic ball games there with Bernice McNaughton and the Castors. You got the Blues taking on the Trojans. That should be a really good football game, folks. But that last one, Andy, that you just talked about there, the Crusaders and the Saints.
The Saints.
That is going to be a good football game if you're down in St. John. Get out to see that one.
And keep an eye on our webpage, firstdownsportspodcast.com, because our Denis Dwaron and his team of predictors, just because it's playoff time doesn't mean that they're taking the week off. They're going full into this one, and they're going to predict the playoffs for us. So it's going to be interesting to see if they're as good at predicting playoff games as they are regular season games.
They had a pretty good record. When you guys read this week's article, you'll be very surprised. These guys had a great record during the regular season. It'll be interesting to see how their playoff record goes. You might want to check out that article ahead of time. Andy, are you going to come out of retirement to make a pick this week?
No.
No picks?
No picks.
All right.
No, I'm not Brett Favre, Ray. Once I retire, that's it.
That's it?
That's it.
All right.
Yeah. All right, well, that's it for the week.
That's it? No, we got couple more things I just want to talk about. Moncton Magic.
Yeah, Moncton
Magic. So we were scheduled to meet after our local sports last week. We were going to be interviewing the head coach and one of the players from the Magic. That didn't happen.
They got a flat tire on the way over here.
Flat tire on the way over here. It happens, folks.
Sure
it happens,
does, especially on these New Brunswick roads.
All right. So those interviews will still be coming up. We are in talks with the Magic right now, trying to work out a date and time. So stay tuned for that.
Yep.
And we got another big interview coming up. Why don't you tell them about that?
I teased it a little while ago, I believe, but the head coach of the Miramichi Valley High Palamu is going to come down and pay us a visit. His name is Guy Peary, and he's going to talk to us about what it's like to get football going in the Miramichi. This is his first year coaching MVHS. But the 2 years prior, he was one of the coordinators at JMH. So he's been involved with both programs up there that, again, share a field. And we're going to talk about how they feel about that.
That's great.
All right.
That's it for this week then, Andy.
Enjoy the playoff football this weekend, guys.
Have a great week. Enjoy the games.